The US government is shut down, but Donald Trump's ratings are up, and that is because he keeps crushing it when it comes to America's economy. They continue to win the zero-sum game, and the only ones to blame are Canada's government. After Trump's new tariff updates, we are seeing more announcements that companies are moving down to the US and increasing their production there. Those companies are thriving. Those communities continue to build up, and that is at the expense of Canadians. But again, we have to only blame the Canadian government. It is so much bigger than the tariffs. We got a lot to talk about in today's video, some contrasting stories, so let's get into it.
New poll, interesting. It shows President Trump's approval rating actually moving up. It's hit 43%. That's his approval rate, 43%. It's up. Liz Peake's with me. Can you explain this? There's a hostile media.
So just quickly, it said 43% is up, which is great, but it did still have his disapproval rating above his approval rating, which I think is surprising. But I also think, I don't know why, but for some reason, polls always seem to skew left. Are just left-wing people more likely to respond? What's going on?
They're out there doing everything it can to undermine Trump, and his approval rating goes up.
I think the biggest thing that you get from this poll, Stuart, is that he's getting things done and he's following through on promises made during the campaign. How many presidents do that? Practically nobody, right? And the numbers, I think it's 44% say he has actually followed through on those campaign promises. Another thing that I took away from the poll is that the issues of most importance to voters always and ever, economy is number one, and he always gets pretty high ratings on his handling of the economy. Maybe not as well as back during his first term when, we had mostly the focus was on lower tax rates and so forth. Another big issue constantly these days is immigration.
Which he does seem to be getting serious about immigration as well. And yes, when it comes to his campaign promises, I'm going to get really specific here, but specific to his economic changes and his plans, he has followed through on those promises specifically, and it has been complete opposite when it comes to Canada's leadership and Canada's promises. Mark Carney's not only been over-promising and under-delivering, he's actively been trying to destroy Canada's economy, and we have this video here, which is talking about a huge new announcement of thousands of auto manufacturing jobs moving down to the US from Canada. And they say a bunch of important stuff in here, which I think it just goes to show how important Canada-US relations are, but also how important good leadership is. Let's get into it.
We had such a good process here in Fort Wayne, and we didn't bother anybody, and we didn't ask for help. We did it in-house.
Setting his beer down and putting his elbow up on the Union Hall bar, Rich Letourneau firm in stating Indiana workers never asked for Canadian jobs.
But when the company comes to me to increase volume, I'm not going to tell them no either, because it's job security for my people. And hell, if I can corner the market, I will.
Letourneau represents the 4,000 workers at the GM plant in Fort Wayne, about 7 hours from Oshawa.
And here's the thing that makes me mad. I've already seen people online mad at America for this. They are mad at somehow the US when these people are just normal people like you and I guarantee you, for the Canadians who are mad at this, would you be fighting for American jobs if the reverse was announced? If the reverse was announced that the GM plant was going to shut down in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and come up to Oshawa, would you be campaigning on America's behalf? At the end of the day, it's a zero-sum game. These companies are going to do what is the path of least resistance, what they're incentivized to do. And of course, America being the bigger market, and they already have manufacturing there, and they're being incentivized to invest there.
This is where GM is adding more jobs, building the Chevrolet Silverado. Right now, that work is happening 24/7 in Oshawa. But in January, 750 workers on the midnight shift will be laid off, along with more than 1,000 parts suppliers. GM hired 250 temporary workers in Fort Wayne earlier this year to keep up with increasing production. CBC News asked the...
Yes, so the estimates for the direct job layoffs is 1,750 from this one announcement. That's almost 2,000 jobs. And for Canada and private sector jobs, that's huge.
Giant, how many more trucks it wants to build here. The company declined the comment.
I don't think GM wants to look as though, hey, we're taking product from other countries, which are still our company. Because, as you know, when Oshawa closed the first time, it got a little bitter in Canada.
The tariffs are driving a wedge between auto unions in Canada and the U.S. Jeff Gray heads Unifor Local 222 in Oshawa and says he understands the UAW's position.
If we had the opportunity in Canada to increase our volume or get different investments, of course we would be after that.
Exactly. And again, it is a global competition. Not that I want us to be competing with the U.S. all the time. I want us to be partnered with the U.S. I want there to be stronger economic ties with the U.S. But the fact that Canadians see it as like, the U.S. is just trying to hurt us, and why don't we just get these jobs? Look, I want the GM plant to have the job. My grandpa, when he was a young man, used to work at that exact GM plant that's doing the layoffs in Oshawa. He would drive from London, Ontario to that Oshawa plant. He commuted there. So yeah, I know that plant has had a positive impact on the community. I want them to stay in business. But again, blame the government.
Gray says Canadian auto workers are vulnerable right now, which is bad for them and bad for Oshawa.
And good paying jobs like auto assembly here in Ontario, if we let these jobs leave, they're not going to come back. So we have to fight like we've always fought for these jobs.
The union wants to retain Oshawa's position as an automotive leader, confident a federal trade deal can be found with the U.S., one that could save the jobs that are still here.
This is a Meteor. This is a uniquely Canadian car.
GM has over 100 years of history in this city, documented at the Canadian Automotive Museum downtown.
There's very much, even among people who live here, a perception still to this day that Oshawa is a car building town, when arguably the actual fact is Oshawa is now a hospital town and a university town.
Wow, interesting. So public funded healthcare and essentially public funded university are the only things that they're going to have to rely on for their jobs now. It's not like you want private industry there. And I can't believe I have to say this. I'm not cheering on Canadian job losses. In fact, this is the opposite. The whole point of these videos is Canada and the US should be working together to create an amazing economic zone that could take on anywhere in the world. And I think if we worked together and we weren't adversaries, everybody would win. I think Americans and Canadians would win from us working together. There would be net more production. It wouldn't be as zero sum.
City data backs that up. Manufacturing only represented 3% of Oshawa's workforce last year. Healthcare, retail, trade, and educational services are now the top 3 employers. Oshawa's mayor also wants to see the industry continue, even if some think the writing's on the wall.
Some may say,
I love this. Look at his hat. So keep in mind, this is the guy who's going like, I can't believe we're losing jobs. So his hat right there, which of course they obviously put up for the video, says Canada is not for sale. So this absolute goof has an elbows up, take on America hat as he's complaining that America is taking Canadian jobs from his area. Do you think you could have maybe found another way around this? Do you think maybe attacking America, Canada's not for sale, fighting for the sovereignty? Maybe weigh in on the mass immigration if you're that worried about Canada not being sold out. Dan Carter, Oshawa mayor, aka Goof.
it's it's a different day, so maybe the day has passed of the auto industry in Oshawa, and I can't come to terms with that, and I don't believe it.
Back in Fort Wayne, GM is the 3rd largest employer, but surprisingly, there are few signs of the company's presence. No sports teams named after their vehicles, and public art embracing local cultures rather than internal combustion. Allen County, which Fort Wayne resides in, says that's intentional. It is trying to diversify its economy. But this county also voted for Trump in 2024.
I'm not American, but if I was in America and I was worried about jobs, I was worried about living, especially because I want Americans to be having a lot more kids the same way I want Canadians to have kids, I would look at areas like Fort Wayne, Indiana. Housing is very affordable compared to other markets. Obviously, it's not the cheapest market you're going to find, but it's quite affordable, let's say that. And if there are more jobs moving to this area, it's looking like they're going to be adding hundreds of union auto worker jobs. You'd be able to afford a house and have some kids there. So I'd look into that if I was American. That being said, we have this other video here of another Canadian company saying they will be wiped out completely from these tariffs. But again, there's other reasons. Let's get into it.
And Donald Trump has also dealt another blow to the softwood lumber industry. A presidential proclamation set out a 10% duty on imports of softwood lumber to take effect on October 14th. Now, it also included a 25% levy on kitchen cabinets and vanities. This is in addition to other duties already in place on those products. Let's bring in James McKenna, who's the president of Glenwood Kitchen in Shediac, New Brunswick. James, thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Let's go through this. I understand your company manufactures cabinetry, ships about 20% of your products to the U.S. You're already facing some of these tariffs, and now you're adding 10% to that. Tell us about the impact of those on your business.
Well, it's a huge impact on our company. To date, we haven't faced any tariffs from the U.S. government. But as of a few days ago, he added 25% within a 4-day period.
So again, with a lot of these things, it's being done through forward guidance. It was the same thing with the film industry and these other things. But one of the ways that he's been able to apply tariffs to industries like this has been because of national security. Do you think he would be able to use that if Canada was friendly to the United States? Probably it would be harder for him to do, but instead, Canada decided to literally run an entire government campaign about taking on the US and becoming their adversary. So, do you think that gave him any level of justification to ramp up the national security tariffs?
Supposed to start October 1st. That again has been delayed to October 14th, 25%. And I'm hearing that January 1st, that will go up to 50%. So a lot of unknown certainty happening right now. We aren't really sure what the date is and what the tariff number is.
And I guess at this point, so if you haven't faced any to this point, how are you able to plan now? Because with that uncertainty, I understand it can be very, very hard. But now you're anticipating this. What changes? What are you going to have to look at? Are you hearing from any of your American buyers, at least at this point?
All of our American customers are friends of ours. We've been dealing with them for 40 years. We have great relationships with them. They don't understand what's going on. They don't see the logic behind it. They will support us as long as they can. A 25% tariff, we potentially can help each other out and we can get through it. But a 50% tariff is going to wipe out our business completely. So
I'm very sad to hear that a Canadian business is getting wiped out due to the US-Canada relations. But again, Canada has to only blame their government, because here's a video from 6 months ago that says it was a necessary step for BC Furniture Company to move to the US, and they deny that tariffs are the cause. Yeah, they deny tariffs are the cause because there were already companies, including lumber, which I've said multiple times, that have been moving down to the US before the tariffs. And for everybody who pushes back and for some reason thinks that the US is not going to be able to bounce back on their manufacturing, look at this video here.
We've heard a lot of pushback to Trump's tariff plans in recent weeks. Some business owners fear it could put them out of business. Others are excited about the changes that could come. WFMY News 2's Ben Briscoe talked to the owner of a well-known triad company that's doubled their sales since the tariffs started.
When you drive up to Carolina Custom,
doubled their sales since the tariffs started. And I featured this company before, but the reason I wanted to show them specifically is because this is the two industries that are getting affected right now that we're talking about.
Leather. The first thing you see is that they're hiring. Jobs for people like Davey Cartner, dad to an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah, we've been busy. It's really busy, actually. It's good. It's job security. I love having plenty of work.
Made in America at the market was huge. It was the big thing over there.
Bob Timberlake says his American home furniture line doubled sales from last year, in large part because buyers wanted furniture made in America to avoid tariffs.
The market was just, it could not have been better for us.
I'm never going to complain about the US doing well, because generally speaking, if a Canadian has half a brain, we can understand that the US doing well will often lead to Canada to also do well if there's incentives for the companies to want to work with Canada.
A piece of furniture made just like this has multiple layers of helping the North Carolina economy. For example, this batting that went in it was made at another factory in Hickory, and that's stuffing over in High Point.
We finally are successful in getting furniture back in North Carolina and America, it's going to bring business to America. It's going to bring industry to America. It's going to bring jobs to America. And it's going to make us more successful.
Going to make them more successful, and there we have it, more examples that America continues to win due to Trump's tariffs, but also the lack of competitiveness, the horrible leadership, and the anti-business sentiment. Canada has a business investment crisis. It is literally becoming crisis level, the amount of money that is leaving Canada to go to other economies at the expense of Canadians, and it's all because of Canada's top-down leadership. We have people in charge who are actively trying to destroy Canada. That's the only way that this can make any sense for why they do what they do, especially with a lot of the new censorship and other things that they're getting into, which we'll talk about in other videos. But if you made it this far in the video, you absolutely rock. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're trying to get these videos out in front of more people. We are trying to grow the channel. If you want to support the channel, you can do it through the link down below. You can also do it through YouTube directly. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.